Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm in here with Renee from Parenthood Prep, and we are wanting to talk to you today about sexy self-care. And we have a special guest with us.
Yes, and so I'm really excited to tell you about her. She is an amazing woman. She's a psychotherapist. She's a consultant. She's a Daring Way facilitator. She's a blogger. She's also a recovering perfectionist. And she often writes about perfectionism and nurturing yourself on her blog. And her name is Laura Reagan. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay! So this series is all about sexy self-care, and this is really different for everybody, and it's a huge range, sexiness, and I want to start there. So what is sexy self-care for you?
I think of sexy self-care as, I was thinking of it in relationship to relationships and how when both partners are taking care of themselves and feeling well, then they are able to be more present in the relationship and have more emotional and physical intimacy. So that's kind of how I conceive it.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So kind of taking care of yourself, you can take care of each other and then take care of your family.
Exactly.
Awesome. And then, so I know we talked a little bit about yoga being one of your tips. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah. So what I was thinking of in some tips for self-care are getting exercise is always a sexy thing to do. You feel better about yourself when you get regular exercise, whether it's a walk, a run, workout at the gym. But I mentioned Kundalini Yoga as something that I think promotes sexy self-care because I'm not an expert on yoga, but I've done Kundalini Yoga several times, and it's really whereas sometimes yoga classes are focused on just getting fit and being strong and showing how well you can balance. Kundalini does involve those things, but it also has a big part of it is about the meditation and just your chakras, and it's more of a mindfulness type of yoga. Mm-hmm. The classes that I usually do are about an hour and a half, and usually at least 15 minutes of it is the long, deep relaxation. So when you get up from that, you feel like a new person. It's like very restorative. So.
Yeah, and I think as I know Renee loves yoga, but I am not a yoga person and I am very intimidated by it. So I feel like that sounds like a better way to start too for me, with something that's maybe a little bit more familiar. And not as focused on trying to think I have to do all these balancing and different things.
Right, like being able to do a headstand, those things are great, and I really admire that, but anyone can do the things that are involved in Kundalini if you follow the instructions. It's kind of a spiritual practice too. So I think for parents who are stressed by all the demands of being parents, and it's a great way to de-stress and really make self-care a priority.
Mm-hmm. It's also, Morgan, you're talking about kind of being a perfectionist at yoga.
Right.
You just kind of start where you are, no matter what practice it is, I think, in yoga.
You got a good point there. It's about, it's not about comparing yourself to someone else. Even in a traditional yoga class, some people are more flexible, but one thing I love about yoga is that this doesn't always happen, but when the teacher says, only compete against yourself to do the best you can where you are today, not, looking at other people and how flexible they may be and comparing yourself. And of course, you're always going to find something that you wish you like their outfit better or whatever it is. So.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So you have children.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about them.
Okay. So I'm a mom of an 18-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. They keep me on my toes. Yes, my son's getting ready to go to college in August. So actually all day we've been dealing with shot records and stuff like that for that. It's
So
very,
how do you how does the self-care, I mean, because we work with a lot of parents of younger kids,
mm-hmm.
you kind of have the spectrum of it. So how do you keep your self-care up when you're in the midst of all of those demanding things, even now?
Yeah, well, I think it's such a challenge because we think of self-care as get a massage or a pedicure and things like that. But I think self-care is a daily practice of, asking yourself how you feel in the moment. I know I was really thinking about this morning because my routine was disrupted. We went out of town last week a couple times and I was just all out of sorts. And I was like, how do I get back to feeling like myself again? I was feeling all frazzled and I just had to say, okay, well, what do I feel? Am I tired? What do I need? And so you can take the time to do a little journaling, just check in with yourself. You can do that at any time. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be, you don't have to make an hour and a half long appointment at the spa to get a massage to be able to practice self-care. It can be as just checking in with how you feel is an act of self-care because you're stopping and saying, I know there are dishes in the sink, but I know, you always have to take care of your children. When you have little children, you can't just go, oh, well, it's my turn. But but asking yourself, what do I need? Am I overwhelmed? Do I need a break? Do I need to put the child in the pack and play for 5 minutes and walk in the other room and do something to make myself feel better, have a timeout for adults. So it's all about that, just knowing how you feel in the moment and not pushing yourself to be a superhero.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that it's interesting when we give children that space of, time to themselves, and then we take our time to ourselves, and then we're all energized. If we can all come back together.
Right. And you have to model it for kids because they know when you're not taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And they internalize that, oh, okay, mommies and daddies always put other people first. And that's not a good message for them to internalize.
Right. And I know I know a little bit about the Daring Way. They talk about you can't love anyone else more than you love yourself.
Yes. Very much so. Yes, I'm a certified Daring Way facilitator, and perfectionism, I think, is just a part of our culture. Yeah. It's really rewarded. If you work a 60 to 80 hour week, people think that's really great. And if if your house is always spotless, but you don't sleep at night, everything always looks perfect, and you'll get a lot of external reward from people for that, but you're going to feel inside like you're losing it eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's on that topic of kind of modeling for your kids. I was thinking, even last night, my husband and my daughter and I went to the grocery store, and she was having a total meltdown. Mm-hmm. And I took her out, and I was like, let's just go. I think we need a break. Let's go just sit outside for a little bit. And it was just kind of that, she was like, I want to sit away from you and take a break. I was like, okay. Obviously it was a couple feet because we were near a parking lot. But it was kind of that. And then she kept talking to me saying I'm not talking to you right now. I'm going to take a break. So then it was okay, but if you don't want to talk to me, you can just sit there quietly. So kind of even modeling how to take a break,
Yeah.
Verbal, she's I'm doing it now. I'm not talking to you. Well, you are. So
that's so cute. But yeah, you're teaching her how.
Yeah, and it's one of those things you would think it, might come naturally because it's something we all need, but it's really something we have to take the time to focus on and to teach ourselves what works for us and help our kids find what works for them too.
Exactly. And kids will let you know. They'll call you out too if you're telling them, don't ever put all of your friends before yourself. And they're like, you do it. They know what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're experts in what we do.
Yes.
So what about your partner? How do you nurture that relationship?
Well, we've always focused on nurturing the relationship ever since, we've been together almost 20 years, but we've always tried to make our relationship its own separate thing. So instead of just being parents, being partners. And so, you know, going on dates, there have been times where we had so much going on with work that the only time we would get to see each other is if we would force ourselves to have either lunch or dinner together on a Friday. And yeah, we had to force ourselves. And sometimes it's like you don't even really want to. You're like so annoyed with them. But that's when you need it the most because, you know, and then you're sitting there, you're like, well, what do we talk about? And you're thinking about talking about the kids. But, you know, even doing that is a way to put the relationship first, because it's easy to just, what I see sometimes is that now as my children are high school and college age, I notice that some of my friends have said, well, not my friends, but people I know have said that when their kids go to college, they don't have anything to talk about, the adults, the parents. Mm-hmm. So
just like that empty nest. Like
yeah, and it's because they've kind of put the kids as the focus solely and not nurtured the relationship. So, you know, then what people can do is focus on, hopefully preventatively, you focus on the relationship before it gets to that point. But even if they're in college and you have nothing to talk about, you need to, again, like force yourselves to get together and figure out, do you want to have something to talk about or not, you know, because
kind of re-spark.
Yeah, because kids can take all of the focus.
Mm-hmm. No.
But I think I think our culture sometimes tells us that that's okay, or that's even preferable, you know, I mean, I love my children very much and they're extremely important to me, but I also, you know, they're supposed to go off and I'm supposed to have my relationship with my husband, you know, for the rest of my life, and they're supposed to partner up and have their relationship. So they're not supposed to be meeting my needs.
Right. And be the only thing there.
Right.
The glue.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that feels good for kids anyway, having that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
Like,
again, they know it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So sexy self-care, we have about 10 more minutes. So what else do we need to know?
Well, I wanted to tell you about my self-care program I'm offering, which is basically self-care consults. It's like coaching for self-care. So so you know how your friends will say, well, what are you doing for self-care? Because we're all therapists, so that's what our friends say to us.
Sometimes they do have to explain to like normal people.
Right. Self-care. We talk about it all the time. So they'll say, what are you doing for self-care? And you're like, oh, well, you know, probably going to get a massage or get a pedicure or whatever. But it's kind of, sometimes it's really hard to put it in practice, especially when you feel really overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And therapy can be great for figuring out why you can't make time for yourself to have self-care. I'm totally a wholehearted believer in that. But sometimes when you don't really need therapy, maybe you've had your therapy and you really know what your issues are, and that's not what you need, but you just need somebody to help you like actually put a plan into action. That's what my self-care consults are. So I do an assessment with the person of the areas of their life that need more self-care, and then help them develop a plan of things that they would actually do, not just me saying, you know, do this, do that, meditate, you know. Right. It's things that they would actually do. And then you have an action plan to leave with after the consult. And then we can also follow up and see how it's going and see, you know, if you need more support.
Awesome. That sounds like a beautiful resource. So do they have to live in your area, or is it like online?
Oh, good question. No, we can do it in person in my area, or we can do it online through a secure video chat.
Awesome.
So from anywhere.
From your self-care vacation.
That's right. If you need a self-care consult when you're on vacation, then you know self-care is the problem.
Well, when you have small ones, then you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
from your vacation. I swear going on vacation sometimes is harder work than being at home. Oh, I know. I'm going to declare it. It is.
Mhm.
Right?
I agree. When you have little kids, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
When your kids get bigger, that does get easier.
Good.
Good. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We are also going to have, when we post this video, have the links to your website and to your blog as well, so everybody can get in touch with you through that and check out all that awesome stuff you have there.
Thank you.
And so we want to thank you for joining us today. This was awesome. And maybe Renee will actually get me to try yoga. I've given up for a while, so maybe after this I'll go check out, see what classes are near me.
I believe yoga mat. Yeah, Morgan?
Mm-hmm.
I said, I think that you have a yoga mat.
I do have a yoga mat.
And
my daughter plays with it often. I shopped Renee one day when I had the yoga mat. I was like, yeah, I bought it. And then it kind of got stolen as like a play item.
Oh, whoops. Well, now maybe you have to get one just for you. And then all you need is your body and something comfortable to wear.
Yeah. Okay. I think we need to kind of that modeling too. It'll probably be more likely for me to do it if she does things like that with me at home too. So
awesome.
Cool. Okay, ladies. So this was Sexy Self-Care, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.